Welcome to the Propelling Business Excellence podcast. And today we have Joe Alva, founder of Rockit Digital Marketing. Thank you very much, Joe, for joining us here. Would you mind giving us some introduction and kick us off with what your company does and who you are?
Absolutely. And at first, it's an honor and a pleasure to join you. Obviously, I've been a big fan of the podcast itself and watched many episodes. So I hope to deliver on my end, that same effort and intensity that we've seen in other episodes that were fantastic. And so a little bit about myself. I've been in all things digital for the past decade. Really want to tip my cap to my time specifically at Google. That was one of the key motivators in myself being able to ultimately start and found Rockit, along with my business partner, which we did about 7 years ago, almost going on 8 now, and being able to deliver and work with primarily the SMB space and throughout North America. We have a little bit of a global footprint also, but expanding our reach and our own capabilities with some of those additional entities that I made mention of. But I often joke I've worked with dog breeders up to the FIFA World Cup and everything in between. And that's what naturally keeps me motivated and makes this journey so rewarding.
And you mentioned about, can you tell us a little bit more about the case studies that you have on your website, like about the pharmaceutical company that you worked with? Could you
Yeah,
explain what you did?
absolutely. So there was a particular Google-based campaign that was ultimately ran for them. That was the solution that we used. The timing of it, we got started, I would say, about 2 weeks earlier to really kind of plant a seed and get some valuable data, but it ultimately led to their acquisition. It was so successful,
Oh, wow.
yes, that it led to their acquisition, which again, everybody gets a check, but then they forget the marketing guy sometimes. So, but another, of course, is with the haunted house, which would be named is appropriately named Hell's Gate. Very scary in the Chicagoland area. We were able to work alongside them and still continue to do so. They have scaled themselves to be, again, I say, in large part due to their greatness, but they have been able to reach the number 3 overall in the nation. Again, independent ratings, not just because they're number 1 in my heart, but not, again, but nevertheless, again, those types of experiences uh, really drive home why I do this and why I've been so fortunate and really blessed to just continue to evolve and expand with folks like that and countless others.
That's amazing. So you mentioned about the Tribute Pharmaceutical and then another company that jumped to third in in the country, correct?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. Okay, that's amazing. So you started your business. I guess what inspired you to start your business? What was the
Many
initial spark?
things. Yeah. So right away, I identified the opportunity that was kind of glaring in the face at the time, which I was always finding myself waiting on content, and of course, for a marketer, if you can't, if you're at a standstill when those occur, and of course, YouTube and those types of things were in its, I wanted to say, still somewhat in its infancy, but digital marketing as a whole was still very much in its infancy. And I had theorized that, video was going to be a large component of the future within digital advertising. And I would have never, I will say this, it was beyond my wildest dreams of what we now see today. But that was one of the key motivating factors for us. Additionally, my passions and in my own personal passion has been in the marketing and advertising industry as a whole. But the desire to assist other organizations that range from small to large, and get that consistent inconsistency,
Uh-huh.
which again, everyone's needs and pain points are different, but ultimately being able to deliver an experience that in a solution that is able to not just meet their needs, but ultimately help scale them is arguably the most rewarding thing that I could do. And it's been an incredible ride because of that.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned consistent inconsistency.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, it's a unique, and that's what that's, but really it's kind of anomalistic in a sense, because everything else, and this could be kind of not so much a desire for independence, but I didn't want to I never find myself getting bored with this in any capacity. It's always a challenge. I wake up every day excited about, and again, don't get me wrong, right? Every one of us gets frustrated, but that's the fun in this, that it's a challenge, that it's not just follow this, this straight and narrow pathway and you reach these desired results. It absolutely takes far more than that. And being able to then see, a client's face light up with how the performance and how those KPIs have ultimately done, and what it's done for them
Mm-hmm.
is really the ultimate reward and goal from this as well.
That's amazing. Um, so in terms of like, what are some misconceptions about running a business? I know you do
Oh,
digital marketing, right? And you mentioned you do everything in digital marketing. There is not anything at all, right? There is no exception to that, correct, Joe?
yeah, that's right. And I would say first and foremost, one of the biggest misconceptions is that it's going to happen. You're going to be a success overnight, and that your work-life balance is going to be easier now that you may not have to answer to someone, right? That, your traditional process. And I always say, no, you still are going to answer someone. It's just different in who that is.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I would argue most importantly, the financial stability. If you are not investor backed, like I wasn't in this experience, if you don't have a large team, if you are really, starting with a handful of funds, as they say, a dollar and a dream, um, are you willing to work for free for your dream? And being able to simplify how the many complexities now with you with a higher title, based on your past experiences, you now have to take on those roles and many others. And so now more is being asked of you that could take you away from the original, maybe passion that motivated you to start. So, and the fact that really you can be a person show. Many think that, but again, that's where I'm going to reemphasize the team aspect of this. That even if it isn't necessarily day one, but surrounding yourself with the right people, and that
Mm-hmm.
also takes a lot of trust.
Right.
But being able to handle those natural maybe misconceptions, I would say, that it's just going to fire. I think in a culture that sees things like Shark Tank, and where they can go from the ground up, and again, that's fantastic. But there are many others, unfortunately, that don't make it to that 2-year mark.
Mm-hmm.
And mhm.
Yeah. So I guess, Joe, how many people are in your company right now?
Right now, we have about 20 in spanning across all of our vast solutions that we provide. So
Oh,
everything
okay.
from, like you mentioned, with websites to video production, to the digital platforms and social media. Naturally, requires many others. There is one, however, with the exception of the video production, I am not behind the camera. That one is definitely my co-founder. Um, And so, and that's for the best. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to probably have this conversation if I was the one filming.
That's great. And what are your 1 to 3 years plan? And I'm coupling that question here because of the time limitations here. What are your 1 to 3 years plans, and what obstacles do you see encountering with
Absolutely.
those?
So within the next 1 to 3 years, we've actually taken on under the Rockit name and expanded some of our endeavors, which includes both first Eddie G's Cookies, which and is a female-owned, plant-based, peanut, tree nut-free, and gluten-free offering, preservative-free cookie that actually tastes good, most importantly. And we've been able to become minority stakeholders in that. And then, of course, even again, expanding outside of that, what you see behind me,
Yeah.
believe it or not, is yet another endeavor, which is right here called the Buy Cracky. And this was one of the original prototypes. And so what this does is it, for any homeowner out there that has seen and experienced the pain of having to go outside in typically your summer heat. I know it's been a little cooler for us, thankfully, today in the Midwest, but generally speaking, you pick that hot summer Saturday to go out and get the weeds out of the cracks in your sidewalk or your brick pavers, and you're having to do them by hand, or you're having to work with chemicals or something. It's just never easy. And what that does is actually simplifies that process tenfold. And we'll hopefully be able to see that actually in a local store near you in the very near future. We are right on the cusp of that.
That's
So
amazing. So
beyond just Rockit itself, the Rockit umbrella has expanded. So of course, when we talk about running a business and misconceptions, and I brought up work-life balance, now you're talking about additional endeavors that still fall within your area of expertise and responsibility. That doesn't take me away from Rockit. It actually is a part of it, and naturally it reemphasizes your efficiency and ability to have time management.
what obstacles do you think you will experience with those?
Naturally, there's many, right? Because now it is even with great growth rates in the market, or a glaring need as something like this with a name, right? There's right now, no one knows that you exist in some of these cases, right? Because they were essentially startups, and being able to then take them, no different than I did with Rockit many years ago, and be able to surround ourselves collectively with the right team and try to scale them. And for as far as on Rockit's end, being able to continue to adapt and be the front runner, and always having that foresight of how the ever-changing industry, which is digital, changes. I often joke that, especially in the consulting space, that digital years are like dog years. The digital universe expands very quickly and rapidly, but it also, what you were doing or was successful maybe 6 months ago may feel like it was 6 years ago at that rate, because of just the nature of how quickly this space changes. So again, being able to adapt to all of those and ultimately be able to scale these other products, and of course go through all of those similar experiences and changes as well.
Right. So, it seems like the growth, etc., are the challenge. But what advice would you offer to the aspiring entrepreneurs, or the people or the business owners that are having challenges?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's about persistence, right? In the first case with Rockit, I mentioned right away that I had found my passion, and it had given me a clear purpose and objective with what I wanted to do, what I had sought after. The fact that I was able to, uh, you know, uh, get anything monetarily was merely a benefit, because that's how much I enjoyed it. Again, having that persistence, that again, no one's going to work harder for your dream than you will. And that's often difficult to really come to a conclusion, especially when, you are growing and you are adding people to your staff and growing your team. And most importantly, I would say learning from failure and understanding. For me, again, as I told you a little earlier, that failure doesn't really exist in my vocabulary. There's only, wins and opportunities. And you learn more, as I tell my 13-year-old, you learn more from a loss than you ever will from a win. And being able to be a student of the game in this case. And I'm constantly learning. I dedicate many hours weekly to stay in the know with what's happening, because it's so easy. I always tell everyone that I don't have executive time. I use that to continue to stay kind of in the know of what's developing and where things are going. And you have to, if you're going to not just get to, I always say that the getting to the top is easy. Staying there is where it's really difficult.
Yeah.
We all know that getting there is not easy either, right? If we were going to climb Everest. And so, but it reiterates how much effort has to go into this. But I brought up team. And if you are an aspiring entrepreneur, I'm someone that I asked everyone that I valued their opinion. And I tell this again to my 13-year-old as well, that I asked, do you know how many people told me yes, that you should go for it? And I said, only one. My parents said no. They're like, you have a good job. Don't, you're comfortable. You're actually doing very well. Why would, are you sure? And, the rationale, the one actually is my wife. That was the only person that actually said, go for it. And, who better, right? Then, so, and I don't get here. There is no, rocket with Bike Cracky or being able to scale these things. And so being able to trust and believe in yourself, be willing to make the necessary sacrifices, and most importantly, work harder than anybody else. Something I had told you previously was, I'm an individual that was the first on my dad's side to get a bachelor's degree. And I'm a product of teenage parents and a grandparent that had a third grade education, that somehow managed to own an apartment complex and do many other things that I just couldn't. Still to this day, I would have loved to have had the conversation with him as to how he went about doing those many things that he ultimately accomplished under that, I guess, that under with those kind of shortcomings and limited opportunities. And what that does for me is it motivates me, as each and every one person can relate to, that you have a lineage that made many sacrifices. And so being able to deliver on that side and to be able to work through any of those challenges, and again, being able to network. And no, ultimately, we're all people. I say I don't get starstruck, right? And so I haven't met Mark Cuban yet, but so, to be determined. And so we'll, but, again, if you have those and you're persistent, you will find success.
Yeah, thank you very much, Joe. This was a really insightful conversation with you. Really appreciate you joining us. And your website, could you tell us some information about what is your website name?
Absolutely. It is rocketdigital.net. And then, of course, you have buycracky.com, which is launching actually this week. And of course, EddieG'sCookies.com as well. And all of those, of course, can be found on Amazon, as well as their individual websites. So be on the lookout for each of those, and of course in retail stores near you very soon. So again, I couldn't be more appreciative and thankful for you spending some time with me, and very honored and humbled by this.
Yeah, thank you very much again, Joe, for your time here. Thank you.
Absolutely. No, it was a pleasure. Take care.